Hey guys, it's Sam, and today I'm doing the Books and Bakes book tag, which was created by India of Life is a Page Turner. And this is sort of a cozy baking themed tag. In her tag, she was eating a cookie, which I was very jealous of. I don't have any baked goods right now. But what I liked about this tag, because I haven't done a tag in a while, was just one of the things I like about fall. Although there's many things I don't like about fall because my anxiety peaks and, you know, the days are getting shorter. I'm just like sad. I love cozy sweaters, the colors, the aesthetic, soup, which I talked about before, and baked goods are like at their peak in fall. And so I've actually not looked over these questions since she originally tagged me, so you're gonna get my mostly authentic split-second answers for this. So let's get into it. Cupcakes. Name a collection of short stories, poems, or anthologies where you couldn't just read one section and had to go back for another. I don't read a lot of short stories, poems, anything like that. So the only short story collection that I kept reading, and that won't be surprising to you, is Language of Thorns by Leigh Bardugo. I was very skeptical before I read this book if I was going to like it because I've read other short stories by Leigh and other things and didn't like them. But since it's the Grishaverse world, fairy tales and folklore from that world, I really enjoyed that. And this almost has an Eastern European feel to it because the Grishaverse is kind of based on a like Eastern European concept where the fairy tales like don't end up how you think they will based on like Grimm fairy tales and things like that. So I definitely enjoyed this one and would read multiple stories of it in one sitting. 2. Lemon Pound Cake. Name a book that has 400 pages or more that you considered a comfort read and a classic. Now, I don't really consider books over 400, 500 pages to necessarily be comfort reads, generally speaking for me, or even classics. So that's hard because a lot of those books, like while they, like so many books over 500 or over 400 pages are my favorites, are they comforting? Not always. Okay, since I've talked about Mistborn a lot lately in different videos and discussions and lists and things, I'm going to be saying The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch, well over 400 pages. Something I haven't reread necessarily, but is also just a world that I really enjoy, that I do find fairly comforting even though I'm on the edge of my seat with it a lot of the times, and just a world I really like returning to. So while most books I read I don't find particularly comforting, this is the closest one to fitting that bill. Number 3, Red Velvet Cake. Name a book that you thought was one thing but ended up being something completely different. This is a hard question because I feel like I go into books kind of knowing either I know what I'm getting into or I have no idea. Ooh. I guess I'll just go full salt with this one. The Bronze Horseman by Paulina Simons. I went into it thinking it was going to be a favorite, thinking it was going to be a wonderful romance that I was really going to enjoy, and I hate this book. It's one of my most hated books ever because the relationship is really abusive and it's romanticized and stuff, so didn't like what I got here. Chocolate Chip Cookie Dough. Name a book or a book series that you can read over and over again even though you know that it's bad for you. That it's bad for you. I mean, there's a lot of books that I can read over and over again that I know are great, but that are bad for me? There's not a lot of books that I like binge read or read over. I mean, I'm not a rereader, we've talked about this, but there's none that I'm like, it's trash but I'll read it again and again. I'm more like, it's trash and I'll read it once. This is difficult. This doesn't quite count, but it's close enough because I have read this more than once, and that is A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J Maas. Not a big Sarah J Maas fan. I will probably continue on with this series at some point in the future when she continues to write these. I don't even know when the next one's coming out. I'm kind of trash for them, but they're also kind of bad. I mean, I hated ACOTAR. I loved this. I was meh about ACOWAR, but I would and have reread this one, not having read the other, any more of them, just to read this one. So I think this one comes the closest to Chocolate Chip Cookie Dough for me. Apple Pie a la Mode. Name a book that was really good but could have been better with a little bit of ice cream. Or a little bit of something else. These are hard. Controversial opinion. Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. I loved Uprooted. I've talked about it a lot before. It's one of my favorite books. Spinning Silver, I expected to like more. What I found difficult about this book, and not that it's like a horrible thing, a lot of people really liked this part, but there were these relationships that were obviously in the future or heading towards romantic, but it's not fully clarified or established in the book. Like there's a couple relationships like this. And I'm like, Even Uprooted had like 5% romance and it was like so good and like just enough, but it wasn't even about that. It was more about friendship and blah, blah, blah. And this is very much about family and other relationships that way, but like if we could have still had that 5% romance that we had in Uprooted, that would have been the ice cream that would have made this like amazing for me, because it's a well-written book. I just didn't love it as much as Uprooted at all. Not like a new favorite or anything, but if it had that like that 5% romance, because the Dragon and Agnieszka from Uprooted are like one of my favorite couples of all time, and we only got like the sliver of them. So if it would have had the same thing in here, it would have been like perfect for me. Ooh, so the next question has two different options. Gingerbread cookies. Do you like your gingerbread cookies crunchy or soft? I'm gonna go with crunchy. If you like your cookies crunchy or more like ginger snaps, I don't like them like ginger snaps, I just like them, whatever. Name a book that you finished that you wanted to throw at a wall or snap. I already talked about The Bronze Horseman. So I have a couple that could fit that category, but I've talked about them a lot before. A more recent one that I feel this way about is Slayer by Kirsten White. Really didn't like that book. I feel like it ruined a lot of things about like Buffy, and because it's based in the Buffy universe, and I'm just like angry at it and will not continue with that series. Brownies, okay, also a similar thing. Are you a corner piece or a middle piece? Corner, because I like some crunch. If you're a corner piece, name a book that starts off strong and then all comes apart. Book with a bad ending. I think two books that fit this are two books that I've read recently, and that is The Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang and Josh and Hazel's Guide to Not Dating by Christina Lauren. Both of these are contemporaries. This one has this problem more than this one, but the second half of this book I didn't love as much as the first. I've talked about it, I've done a reading vlog, things like that. So I felt like the characters, I didn't like some of the things they were doing, some of the misunderstandings, the guy gets a little possessive, things like that. This book only fell apart for me in like the very last 3 chapters because there's a trope in there that I will include when I review it or wrap it up that I really don't like, a romance trope specifically, that I really, really don't like. So although like most of the book was like a 3-star fun thing for me, the last, and I just finished this book like a couple days ago, the last 3 chapters I was like, ugh, I hate this because of a certain trope that pops up that some people really like and I hate. Birthday cake. Name a book series or an author that you feel like keeps coming out with a book, short story, or novella every year. This is not a favorite of mine. I really like Birthday Cake, but this is not a favorite of mine. Victoria Schwab is coming out with a new thing every like 6 months. So that is when I'm thinking of an author that's like churning out content, for good or for bad, depending on your opinion, it's V.E. Schwab. Carrot cake. Name a book that sounded healthy for you but ended up being unhealthy either with content or put you in a reading slump. I feel like I've already talked about some of these. Well, I'll just go to one that I wasn't going to mention because I've talked about it before, but here we go because I feel like it fits. Beautiful Disaster by Jamie Maguire. I read years ago. It's again one of my least favorite books of all time. I went into it thinking I was really gonna love it, like I wanted like a really angsty new adult romance. Ooh, did I hate this? It is so toxic, such bad behavior, such abusive behavior. I hate it so much. It didn't put me in a reading slump, but I definitely like hate read the last like third of it, and it's just horrible, and I don't like it. I don't like that book, and I've talked about it a lot before, and a lot of people have calmed down about that book and now know that it's not great. If even though they still like it, they can recognize the problematic elements, but when I first read that book, people were very upset with me for not liking it, and I'm like, Travis is a piece of shit. And that is it for all the questions. The last question is to tag some friends that you would like to share some baked goods with. The only people I can think of immediately when I think of baked goods is Sarah Jane, and then by proxy, Sean from Reader's Rambles, Sarah Jane from The Book Life. So I'm gonna tag them, and I don't like tagging a ton of people because I don't want people to feel pressured. So, because whenever I feel like I get tagged and I'm like, oh gosh, like, I get nervous. So I don't want to tag a ton of people, but if you want to do this tag, definitely recommend doing so. And just say I tagged you if you feel nervous about doing a tag that no one tagged you in. I do that all the time. I just do tags I want to do, but if you need to be tagged, it's fine and you're tagged now. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye.